Hey, what's up you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you another QMR action movie reviews. This time we're going to be talking about Invasion U.S.A, the Chuck Norris classic from 1985, along with Kiss of the Dragon, starring Jet Li in 2001, Black Mask in 96, the first Transporter with Jason Statham released in 2002, along with its sequel in 2005.
Stupid person.
Meeting my icon, Catherine Isabel here.
Yep, first off we're going to be talking about Invasion U.S.A. starring Chuck Norris. Now I haven't talked a lot about Chuck Norris on this channel or any of my videos really, but you know, I've always liked Chuck Norris. I mean, I obviously have my favorite action star, and then besides the obvious Schwarzenegger in the background, my other favorite is obviously also, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and I love Scott Adkins' work, Dolph Lundgren, Jet Li, and there's been others. Statham really is kind of becoming one of them as well for me, but we'll get to him in a couple minutes. But Norris is someone I've always really liked as well. I mean, I remember even when I was in school, I was always enjoying coming home and watching one episode like Walker, Texas Ranger at 4 o'clock or something like that. But honestly, I'd never seen too many of his movies, and when I would go into his movies, sometimes, I don't know, they would just seem sort of generic or by the numbers. I don't know. And again, I know we don't watch a lot of these movies for their intricate stories or anything like that, but Invasion U.S.A. is one there's just always something bland about some Norris movies for me. I guess that's why it took me so long to get to some of these. But Invasion U.S.A. is always one I wanted to get to. It's definitely a favorite among his filmography, and it has sort of an interesting set of themes in it because, well, the synopsis according to IMDb is: a one-man army comes to the rescue of the United States when a spy attempts an invasion, which again is a very detailed by IMDb there. So again, off of Google, retired CIA agent Matt Hunter, Chuck Norris, is first forced back into the business when a villain from his past re-emerges. Soviet Mikhail Rostov, Richard Lynch, a terrorist whom Matt once caught, wants to exact revenge. After failing to find Matt at his Everglades home, Rostov and his army of communist guerrillas began carrying out terrorist attacks all over southern Florida. Millions of innocent lives are at risk, and it's up to Matt, the National Guard, and the FBI to save them. So yeah, it plays with a lot of themes here, sort of that kind of bad time for these days, but that paranoia of who these immigrants could be, or and then like different gun laws and such like that. Because there's literally a scene of Richard Lynch and his group driving down like a random city block and just firing bazookas into civilians' houses and stuff like that. But really it turns into more of a big action movie than anything. It doesn't really hone in too much on the actual themes what were initially presented. But that's kind of what you want for a Chuck Norris flick, and I guess this one is pretty enjoyable. Richard Lynch makes for a good bad guy. You kind of believe in the the scum that he's portraying, the way he is as a human. I thought he worked well with that. Excuse the hair. It looks good from right here, but then you turn and it's like, oh shit. It has some decent fights in it. I want to say there's a particular memorable hand-to-hand fight scene though, but there's plenty of Chuck Norris blasting the 2 machine guns like you see him do on the cover. There's a good chase sequence involving a bomb as well, and pretty good shootout in a mall. Again, kind of that public violence sort of thing. I think it was even like Chuck Norris. He said sometime later that some of it was a bit much. He was kind of vague about it, but I don't know. I still overall really, well, I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say I was blown away by it. I mean, I think I was expecting a bit more with it. The ending is also sort of abrupt. Guess what? Chuck gets the bad guy. And right when he does, like the second after he does, it's over. Or it's actually like right in the middle of when the guy's dying and then it's over. I don't know. But I liked it. I wouldn't mind grabbing it, but it's not one that I would say is like one of my all-time favorites, but it's definitely essential if you're a fan of Chuck Norris. Nothing worth checking out if you're a fan of his. So if I had to rate Invasion USA, I think it's solid. It's good for what it's going for. Although I wouldn't say it's really, I don't know, again, just a personal all-time favorite for me or anything. So I'm giving it like an 81, 83%, somewhere in there. And then next up, we're going to be talking about Kiss of the Dragon, starring Jet Li and Bridget Fonda. And this is one of Jet Li's, big, U.S. release movies, along with another crop of them that came, within the early 2000s and late 90s and everything. You do some Onward and such, but Jet Li was someone I always really liked, actually, since I was a kid. I got the Blu-ray right here, actually, if that tells you how I felt about it. But yeah, I wasn't always this deep into I wasn't always this into the genre like I am now. I mean, I always would watch them, mostly because my brother Andrew was into them. But kind of that, typical sibling thing. I'd say, oh yeah, okay, it's kind of stupid, or I won't really, tune in like I should. And I'd kind of hold it against him because he was into it, unless I couldn't be into it, that kind of thing. But Jet Li was someone I actually always kind of openly liked. He was someone I could actually sit down and watch without having to either fake it or basically make fun of it just because my brother was into it. I always bought into Jet Li. Now, he's not like the greatest actor in the world or anything, but I always thought he had I do think he always has like a certain amount of conviction in his roles, and his demeanor is always good. He always takes his roles very, very seriously. He's a real martial artist, wushu, and everything like that. I even like some of his other films, like The One and Cradle to the Grave. I really like War with him and Jason Statham. I just name a few of the other, American-based ones. Yeah, and Bridget Fonda, daughter of, yeah, you guessed it. It's a good, well, big general statement. It's a good movie. Wow, profound. But yeah, again, I'll read you a little sum up on Google here, since that seems to be a little more reliable than IMDb lately. Excuse me, guys, sorry about that. But yeah, Chinese cop. The Chinese cop is brought to Paris to help crack a major drugs ring. When the official with whom he's meant to lease ends up dead, he realizes the corrupt cop is the head of the ring. He must not only prove his innocence of a murder, but also evade the thugs who want him dead. In a city where he knows nobody, his only ally is a prostitute named Jessica. And yeah, that's Bridget Fonda's role there, and that's like the main common criticism I see in this movie, is, or that I see when people talk about this movie, is Bridget Fonda's character and her place in it. I think she does a fine job. She actually shows a good degree of emotion in a certain couple scenes, and her and Jet Li actually have a decent foil sort of chemistry with each other in certain bits. But I do agree her character doesn't always feel necessary. I mean, I feel like he could have taken her out of the plot completely, just wrote around it a little, and he wouldn't even need the character in the movie. But nonetheless, I didn't think she was terrible. I mean, sometimes her character can get, whiny, I suppose. I heard that, word being thrown around a lot. Yeah, I do feel like a bit too much concentration was placed on her, even though, again, she doesn't really technically affect too much if they didn't really need her to. But still, I liked it, and her and Jet Li do actually share kind of a nice comedic scene in the middle of the movie where Jet Li is being sheltered at a restaurant of someone he knows, and how he deals with kind of the social awkwardness he's facing with her. It's actually played off pretty well. And again, what we're here for is the fight scenes, and I thought they were quite good. Jet Li is at his best in his prime is one of the absolute fastest you'll ever see on screen. I don't know if I've seen anyone faster, really. And it got to the point where I think it was in the final fight scene that they actually had to slow it down in the editing room because Jet Li and the other actor had moved too fast for the cameras or something like that. And there are a good number of fight scenes in this movie, some decent shootouts and such, good escape scene. What almost bogs it down, though, Jet Li ends up fighting these two, kind of crazy twins and everything, is they insert rap music into it and just doesn't fit, with an actor like Jet Li. But I think that is probably the most common sort of American accessible music they thought, so they just threw it into it. I don't know, that's what it felt like. But luckily, if you still pay attention to what you're there for, then I think you can sort of maybe tune it down and just watch what they're physically doing. So yeah, I gotta say I really enjoyed Kiss of the Dragon. The final confrontation he has with the villain and the corrupt cop is satisfying. He dies in sort of an unconventional manner that I liked quite a bit. And if I had to rate it, I'm giving this one probably like an 86, 88%, somewhere in there. What do you guys thought about this one? And then next up we're going to talk about, Black Mask from 1996, also starring Jet Li. This is going to be a little bit of a different discussion here. Now, it came out the year of my birth, so, that's one thing. But it's about Simon, who appears to be a mild-mannered librarian, but he's actually a genetically engineered soldier, or enhanced soldier who feels no pain. His team of super soldiers, codenamed Squad 701, was disbanded after some of them had psychotic episodes and exhibited mental instability. Simon thinks his fighting days are behind him, but when members of the squad, led by his ex-commander, start murdering drug dealers, Simon dons a black mask and searches the streets for his former comrades. And yeah, this is actually considered like a Hong Kong superhero from like a Hong Kong comic book film, basically. And something about Kiss of the Dragon was that Jet Li's website at the time, people had people really liked him, but they had sort of wanted him to do more realistic fight scenes. And this, though, in '96, with his Hong Kong movies, it involved obviously a lot of dubbing, but mainly a lot of wire fu, basically, right? So basically, they do jumps and or they kind of levitate from one position to the other very quickly and such. You've seen those, and obviously, like a fight scene in like Godzilla Final Wars, you'll see some of that wire fu, type of thing going on as well. That's a random tie-in, but if you can get past the over-the-top nature of that and maybe deal with the dubs, which I could to some extent because I grew up watching, badly dubbed Godzilla movies. There's a couple of decent fight scenes in it. It has like this eccentric and kind of fast-paced, energetic vibe to it that I actually kind of liked, which some of these Hong Kong action movies tend to have. Even like in a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie like Knockoff, which was directed by Hong Kong type of director, added like an extra flair to it, and this one kind of has that too. But it's hard to judge the acting, with the dubs taking over. It is what it is. Jet Li is fine, but again, it's hard to judge acting, when it's taken over by that. It's also like an homage to the Green Hornet and Bruce Lee, Kato and everything like that. I forget the woman's name, but there's also like a former love interest of his who ends up trying to kill him and everything. I thought their dynamic was probably the best thing about the movie if I were to get serious about it. It's violent in bits, but just because of the dubs, it adds like the over-the-top nature of it, and it is somewhat played for comedy too. So it's like hard to figure out how you actually feel about it. But really, I don't know. I can't say it's very good. If you're in the right mood, I think it's fine. But if I had to rate it honestly, I'm giving it like a 70-73% at best, I guess. So yeah, let me guys thought about that one, Black Mask. And then lastly, we're going to be talking about, or at least a little bit about, both the Transporter as well as the Transporter 2, coming out in 2002 and 2005, both starring Jason Statham. And now the Transporter, this guy named Frank is hired to transport packages for unknown clients and has made a very good living doing so. When asked to move a package that begins moving, complications arise. Really. I really gotta stop relying on IMDb for these sum-ups here. Yeah, ex-Special Forces Frank Martin lives what seems to be a quiet life along the French Mediterranean, hiring himself out as a mercenary transporter who moves goods, human or otherwise, from one place to another, no questions asked. Dangerous complications ensue when he's hired to kidnap the feisty daughter of a lethal Chinese crime lord who's smuggling his fellow countrymen into France. And now I have something to say in comparison to the second one once we talk about the second one, but the first movie on its own, which I do have on Blu-ray here, I quite liked. I am a big fan of Jason Statham. I do like him quite well. He is actually, he's actually taken a lot of martial arts himself. He's never done any actual fighting as far as I know, or at least official fighting. But he's always believable in his roles. I think he's a decent actor, has always become a decent actor. And you can argue that a lot of his movies, a lot of his roles and plots are very much similar, kind of copy-paste, and they sort of are. I kind of got on pretty hard for that, when I talked about Safe in my last QMR video, which I've actually warmed up to more. It's one of his better ones. But, I don't know, it feels like all his characters are, like, interchangeable, and you could plop any character in any of his movies' plots, and it would be the same thing. And it's true. Typecast, yeah, but he also knows what he does well, so, he keeps making money as, best he can, as easy as he can, right? But then you compare him to someone like Steven Seagal, who tends to do, like, a lot of very similar type of roles and very similar premises. And at least Jason Statham can act, and he actually has a presence, and they don't have to cut around him not being as mobile because of his weight. So there's that. And as far as I know, Jason Statham isn't a dick either, so that's good. I want to make this like a Steven Seagal and Statham comparison video, because there is no comparison. But I still found this one enjoyable. There are some good fights in it, and Statham actually lets himself get hit, once in a while, unlike Seagal. And at first, the Chinese girl that he has basically been transporting, she's a bit annoying at first, a bit much, but they actually do develop kind of a nice chemistry with each other. One of the best scenes in the movie is probably when they're having breakfast the next day in a way, and it's just kind of humorous. So I like the vibes with that and such. I also like the first big action scene in the movie. You kind of look through the eye hole, and then you see Statham running up and doing this kick through the door. So there's some good action sequences there. It did have to be cut down to PG-13, so there's a couple deaths where that you could tell are meant to be more violent. There's one other guy who was supposed to go under the truck and get but no, he just ends up kind of falling and hitting the road and such. And a Statham movie, a straight up action movie like this, you always want it to be rated R. But still, there's some good fights in it, and I did end up liking his dynamic with, the kidnappee and everything. Rick Allen was a decent sort of, scummy bad guy who's been in a lot of, these types of roles himself. Matt Schultz, who I think was in one of the, I think it's one of the Fast and Furious movies or something like that. I could be wrong. He's our other sort of main antagonist. And, he was alright. I never really felt like there was a real threat to Jason Statham in this movie. I do think the second one, despite some other issues with it, had maybe slightly more colorful villains. I'm not sure. But I think Transporter is actually quite a good time. It's paced really nicely. And this character of Statham's, I actually do like Frank Martin, especially in this first one. Just how focused he is on the order of how he does things, and it's a little bit sort of like a dry humor with how they present it in the first act of the movie. So it has that going forward as well. And if I'd rate the first Transporter, I'm giving it like an 85%. So let me guys thought about that one. And then the second one, it's pretty similar to the first. You don't have to, dive into the character as much in this one, and the movie itself doesn't either, and that leads me into one of my first negatives about it. But first off, Frank Martin has accepted a job that seems easy enough. Chauffeur and bodyguard young Jack, son of crusading politician Jeffrey Billings. The problem is that Billings is crusading against an international drug cartel. They retaliate by kidnapping Jack and infecting him with a deadly and highly contagious virus. Responsible for the boy, Frank must reclaim him and then find an antidote before scores of innocents are stricken. And I do plan on getting this one on Blu-ray as well as the third. I'd watched all the Transport movies, years ago, but just watching them again, from my new perspective, where I can actually enjoy things like this. It makes it different. Now, I do think there's probably more action. There were definitely more hand-to-hand fight scenes in the second film. And like I said, it did have, I feel like, a better cast of actors in this one. I'm not saying in terms of... the characters are better too overall, I guess. But you had Amber Viaduct, who is the mother of the son that he has to protect and everything. I thought she was quite good. I was pleasantly surprised by her. Her and Statham possibly have like a interest in each other with her husband kind of not really being there for the kid and everything. And then Kate Neuda, Lola, who is the one you see on the cover there, or excuse me, the cover there. I remember when we were watching it, and my brother and cousin thought she was just kind of creepy and looked weird and everything, but she's kind of my style, honestly. So she has like a good sex appeal to her. You're like, come on, Statham, just once. But no, it didn't work quite as much for me this time around. I did really like Amber Valletta. I thought she was kind of like she kind of like out-acted the movie she was in. I don't know if I want to say that. I shouldn't say that necessarily, but some of the characters come across a bit typical, but I do think they had picked superior actors for this one compared to the first. There are a number of really nice fight scenes in this as well. But again, my issues with both of these Transporter movies and some Statham movies in general is the cuts. It is pretty choppy sometimes, and that is unfortunate. It was possibly even more noticeable in this one, I'm not sure. But at least with Statham, again, unlike Seagal in his later years especially, it's choppy, it's really edited fast, but you can still see from the quick angles that Statham is actually still doing a lot of it, or at least a good majority of it. With Seagal, they have to zoom in a bit more. I wonder why. But still, I feel like it doesn't have to be chopped up as much as it is, so that kind of takes away from some of the fights for me. But I nonetheless still enjoyed it. I won't say it's as good as the first. Transporter 2 did turn into a bit more of a generic action movie, I want to say. I do like Statham whenever his character tries to protect kids in movies. He's for some reason really good at playing that dynamic off. But the rest of the whole kind of virus thing, it made it for a bigger story than I think it really needed to be. I'm not sure how they would have made a sequel more fresh or something while keeping like the same type of setup, but I don't know, it wasn't really as much about Statham's character in this. It felt like he could have been anyone. I didn't feel like it needed to be like this transporter character, and they didn't really go into his work anymore. There's only a couple driving scenes too, and I don't know. I do think the first one's a bit better for me anyway, but who knows whenever I watch them again. Yeah, I still enjoy it though, don't get me wrong. I'm probably giving it like an 8 point, like an 82%, 84, not too much lower. But I do prefer the first one. So let me guys thought about all these films. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.